and 2 navy blue. Very good.
So good morning, good afternoon, and in some parts even good evening, and welcome to the Ethical Governance Standards of Excellence and Quality Leadership Committee, and to today's webinar on ethics and compliance for startups and scale-up ventures. And I have not only the honor, but the great pleasure to have amazing speakers joining us today. They're going to share their experiences, their wisdom, and also for you who didn't make it to Antalya last year, this is a great follow-up on some of the conversations that were presented also at the International Congress. So welcome, everyone. And I would like to do a very quick introduction, and then I'm going to let our great speakers to do a follow introductions themselves. So I have the pleasure to have our committee president of our committee, Mr. Bülent Şenver, from joining us from Turkey today, and also our Senator for Italy, Enrico Fiore, and our Senator for Israel, Fiona Darman, and also the pleasure to have our Senator, Fran Gudyan.
Hello.
Thank you so much. So Adam, well, I would say ladies first, right? Fiona, would you like to be the one who kick off this amazing webinar by introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're up to?
Hi, so hello everybody. My name is Fiona Darmon, and I'm happy to meet you all. Yes, I'm the senator here for Israel. I spent the last 20 plus years in the venture capital industry in Israel and in the US, and I'm excited to be here. Recently, I actually set up my own fund, having 13 years spent being a general partner in a large fund, and my current fund focuses actually on investments both in funds themselves as well as in startups. And I'm quite excited to share my views and opinions to this forum and to get offline to meet all of you at the next World Conference.
And we're looking forward to see you again in South Africa this year, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Mr. Enrico.
Oh, thank you so much. I say hello to everybody. And I'm working also in the startups arena from a long time, a little bit less than Fiona, that have more experience than me. I work with the people, and as usual, I prefer to choose the right people that have the right ethics. That's all.
Great, thank you. Mr. Guillen, you're next.
Hello, Maria. Hello, everyone. I'm Frank Guillen. I'm from Spain, in Seville. I'm senator for Spain of the WBAF. I've been involved in entrepreneurship and investment for several years. Actually, I founded an accelerator program here in Spain. It's the 8th batch that we have this year. And also I'm serial entrepreneur, so I co-founded several companies. One of them is Brio Agro. It's the first company invested by the WBAF fund. And yeah, we have the opportunity to talk about the ethics in Brio Agro and accelerator, and also in my activities as a business angel here in Andalusia. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you. We can't wait to hear more about it. Last but definitely not least, our committee president, Mr. Bülent Şenver. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Maria. You know, your introduction was perfect. You know, you must have recognized her voice changed, and you know, she introduced me in such a way that, you know, she made me feel as if, you know, I'm a very famous man in Turkey. Maria, thank you very much. I just worked many years with first Arthur Andersen Audit Company. I'm sure you might have heard the name Arthur Andersen. Arthur Andersen is an audit company. I worked in London office with them for some 11 years. And then I was recruited to CEO of a big Turkish bank. And I worked as a CEO of a big Turkish bank. And now I'm a retired CEO of a Turkish bank. I'm teaching in Bosphorus University in Turkey. And I'm the founder and chairman of Turkish Ethics Center in Istanbul. And also I established a foundation, which we call in Turkey Books for Everyone Foundation. Young people are not reading too many books in Turkey. So we want to encourage them reading more books. So these are my two hats at present. Obviously, you know, my students in the university, they're interested in, you know, things like banking, finance, technology, etc., but not too much interest in ethics. So I always, during my first course, the first day and the first hour, try to explain ethics to them. I'm teaching a bank management course in Bosphorus University. And I usually tell them that in banking industry, in finance industry, ethics is a must. And I give them some case studies, some names, you know, where unethical behavior, you know, damaged a lot of investors, a lot of other banks and the Turkish economy. But, you know, ethics, when I talk with them about ethics, they really want to see some concrete results in ethics. You know, why ethics, they say, what ethics brings to us. Will ethics makes us rich in a short period of time? Can we earn more money with ethics? You know, will a company recruit us because we really show interest in ethics? Well, I say many companies at present are showing interest in ethics. And I'm sure that if they see that you're an ethical individual and you care about ethics, so you will have a positive, let's say, attitude, and it will be a +1. You know, it's an advantage for you to be recruited to a company or to be given a more responsibility in a company. They ask me the question saying, sir, shouldn't every individual be ethical? You know, why are you saying, are you ethical? Are you not ethical? This should be the characteristics of a human being. I say, yes, but, you know, if you go to industries, if you begin doing business, you see some unethical behavior. So there is always the distinction between ethical behavior and unethical behavior. So from day one, you know, pick up ethics as your priority. And whatever you do in business life, you can be an engineer, you can be a teacher, you can be a lawyer. But the first talent and the first characteristics is you should always have ethics. Then obviously this will bring trust. People will trust you. You will have a good reputation. You will have a credibility, and that will eventually bring you money. You know, the bottom line. You know, the bottom line is important for a young generation. I say, look, bottom line. You will have a good bottom line if you care about ethics. So, Maria, this is what my introduction is about.
The introduction and the opening of this very complex topic, isn't it? And this is something that we did discuss back in Antalya, which was the first time many of us came together after being under lockdown in all these countries, having to do a 360 on our businesses. It was just a lot happening. And I think that some of the things we addressed at that time was, what is the new normal? And of course, having so many people becoming more digital, reputation and not only what kind of business do you have, but who are we doing business with, has become very relevant. And I think that the aim of this, what we're aiming for today after this webinar, is for whoever is watching, is to have some gold nuggets to bring with them, some guidelines, and perhaps also some micro frameworks, because obviously we won't be able to cover everything today, that they can apply to their companies and their business, regardless the size and the stage where they are. So I'm just going to throw it out there with a couple of questions, just to set the tone and just try to together here as a team to identify what are the ethics key attributes, because that could be a little bit those are words that we might throw around, right? What's ethics versus moral, for example? I don't know if you, Mr. Shamil, would like to give us your thoughts on this, and then we walk around and build on top of the starting of this conversation.
Okay, Maria, you gave the ball to me, huh? Again.
Okay, yes, I did. Yes,
I will kick the ball first. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whenever somebody asks me this type of a question, I say ethics is very simple. It's doing something, doing all the right things and avoiding all the wrong things. But the problem here is what is right and what is wrong. That's the key question to be answered. The definition of ethics, according to me, is easy. Always do the right things, good things, and never do the bad things and wrong things. But what is wrong, what is right? What is right to me may sometimes be wrong to another individual in another country. What is right for somebody in France may be wrong for me in Turkey, Istanbul. So I think that is why many international companies working all around the world, they issue their ethics code of conduct. So they determine standards for what is right and standards for what is wrong. So everybody working in the world, in different countries, in that same company, Coca-Cola or P&G, they should follow the same ethical code of conduct. And I think this is a very important issue because values change. What the definitions change, the culture of each country changes, and international firms really need to standardize the ethics code of conduct, and putting that into writing is very important. Write that down, and also build up a police force, some audit teams to supervise and to audit unethical behaviors in the companies. Just establish early warning systems in a company. Ethical early warning systems. So it might be some type of let's say ratios, behavior types. Every company has its own history and experience. So every company can determine his own algorithm, ethical algorithm, unethical algorithm, or ethical blindness in their institutions,
which we will revise later on. So I'm gonna be a little bit rude, and I'm gonna cut you there because I want to spark, you will say, a little bit of the of this debate. And I know, Enrico, for example, you have been involved with so many companies. And I would like to hear your thoughts on this, because I think that we looked at some of Mr. Bullen mentioned measurements and algorithms and all that. And I know that you're involved in a couple of this initiative as well. What are your thoughts?
Okay, thank you so much for that. But I think that first of all, we have to take care that the ethics for me is like a DNA of a single person. So I think that from the beginning, the ethics is present in every person from the birth, but he needs to be continuously nourished with good food. And this means that we have to take care of the personal and corporate environment, the social environment of the country where we live or where we work. And in the meantime, we have to take care that the profit, as Bullen said before, is not the first KPI. I think that the triple bottom line that, several times, it's one of my mantra, that take care of the people, of the planet, and the profitability, that is a fair profit for all the stakeholders, is so important. I think that it's not so simple to create a KPI or a framework of KPI for ethics, because it's something that is real personal. It's something that is real in the people that work together, to understand together that without ethics, there is no business, or there is no long-time business. And so it's important for the startups from the beginning, for example, because we talk about also ethics and compliance for startups and scale up, to take care that ethics are values that are so important, like the KPI, or how I can increase my customer, how can I increase my penetration in the market, and so and so. I think that is it's a good idea to have a very fair discussion about ethics in the startups from the beginning, to avoid any type of problem tomorrow next in the growth of this company. Thank you.
Thank you. And Fran, I was wondering, you have done various entrepreneurial journeys, and I would like to hear your thoughts on why ethics is so important for startups. Not only your own journey, but I know that you have been participant of other people's journeys as well. So maybe you can share some of those insights with us.
Okay, thank you, Maria. I agree with Enrico. When you are an entrepreneur and you are starting your business, you are only focusing one thing: is profit, scaling up, and results. But the point is that if you don't care about the ethics, you don't probably have a very long journey as an entrepreneur. Okay, so because your reputation is everything, not only because of your startup reputation is everything for your customers, investors, and anything else, anybody else, but also, and more importantly, because your personal reputation is your main asset, okay, in your entrepreneurial life. So in our case, in Brio Agro, for instance, we have involved in these years with a lot of farmers that you are really, really difficult people in some ways, and they need to trust you. Okay, so if we don't have enough transparency and honesty with them about the results, about the practice, about this is impossible that will not work. Okay, so I think it's a really important matter question for entrepreneurs to show them that the only way to grow their business in a sustainable way in several years, in decades, is to establish a very clear ethical practices and conduct, and this always gonna worth it. Okay, so that's my experience, and that's an experience that I have with all these entrepreneurs, more than 100 entrepreneurs that passed in the accelerator program that I ran, and all of them agree also with that this is a really important question, and not the first question in the mind of the people that start first business.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And I want to build up on that. And you mentioned reputation and transparency. And I know, Fiona, speaking about reputation, you have the reputation of being a superwoman, right? And a super investor. And you definitely, I know this is something that you're passionate about. So what are your thoughts on what type of unethical behaviors investors dislike, but also some of the things that you're looking for to make this this company an attractive investment opportunity?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Maria, and it's so wonderful to be here with these uber clever people. So I hope I'll be up to the standard of everyone before me. So as an investor for many years in startups and public companies, by the way, I think the topic of ethics is critical, and it's a major value driver, because I tie ethics in with clean governance, and I tie ethics in with processes, transparency, structures. At the end of the day, a startup is receiving someone's money, be it their own money or a third-party investor's money. And the whole matter of how they're managing their firm, how they're making decisions is key. And that key is the long-term key and potential success of that company, because you can't play around. And I think understanding that ethics and governance go hand in hand, transparency, working with your team, are all super critical as you take those funds and continue and move forwards. Ethics for me is something we bring from our home, but it's also the way we manage our businesses, and we instill the code of ethics to guarantee the long-term scale up of the startups. There is zero tolerance by investors for, I won't say even lack of ethics, but mismanaging, showing that there's preferences. I think that every entrepreneur who is starting his company has to understand the importance of having that code of conduct being the Bible of how the organization is being run is key. Mismanagement, not abiding by processes. I won't go harsh and say misleading, but I'll say lack of transparency. It doesn't work. And you may think that today you've managed to succeed in raising money and you're building a company, but if you're not transparent with your investors, I think one of the things I always say to the entrepreneurs when I invest with them is, guys or ladies, this is the beginning of the journey. This is the beginning of the partnership. This is not the end game, getting the money. It's the beginning. And in order to get future funding, to succeed, to excel, to have an exit, to make an impact, to make a difference, for profit, not profit, have clear codes of behavior. Don't deviate, don't be tempted. You're at the beginning of building something long-term and something big.
Wow, that's a lot. And I'm thinking, what do you do if you're, because all these companies come in various sizes, and if sometimes you don't really have the resources maybe to build those teams, like is there any example of some of the methods that you can use to implement this?
So one of the things, when we as investors, when a startup walks through the door, the younger guys, you've got a great idea, you've got passion in your eyes, you've got something big to dream. And the current generation has this wonderful audacity and passion to do and passion to create, and this, I'm going to succeed no matter what mindset. I think my biggest piece of advice is bring more partners around the table, stabilize the team with more than one person. The more people you have around the room of people with a little bit of gray hair, It can be colored like mine or otherwise, but put a little bit of gray hair next to you. You can learn from them on the rules of the do's and don'ts. You can learn from them on the what and what not. And I think it doesn't have to be a resource matter. I think it has to be, resources around there. You'll all have people who want to help you. I think it's sometimes our difficulty, especially when we're starting a company, is accepting advice and accepting support. And I think if I just deviate for 1 second, when you're starting the company and you need to instill all these processes, take someone next to you to at least talk you through the processes, give a consultant, you can give a bit of money, you can give a bit of percentages, but have a grown-up next to you that can shorten the mistakes and help put in place some of the processes. What we would often do with our companies is we would recommend putting in place a chairman who was someone with a little bit of experience, putting in place an industry expert with a little bit of experience, just to make sure that you're not missing the foundations of ethics and governance that are required to build a long-term company.
Oh, wow. At this point, I actually wish that I had a little bit of AI help to actually be, I was trying to take as many notes as possible here, because there was a lot of great tips. And the good thing is that we will have the recording available for this, so we can revise that, because this is so important, because I think we can agree that the importance of ethicality, but it's so difficult to know how to go about. So Mr. Shanverno, like you have done this for so long. Can you give us some example of some methods that we can introduce to implement those standards in our businesses?
Okay, there's a Turkish saying. In Turkey, we say, fish begin to smell bad from its head. So the Turkish is balık baştan kokar. Balık is fish, baş is head, kokar is bad smell.
And that's work in every country.
Yes.
That's the Turkish balık baştan kokar. So fish begin to smell bad from its head. So I totally agree that the startups should really have some type of an experienced man. Fiona said gray hair, it could be, my hair color. So, but some experience, somebody who is experienced, who is well-known, reputable, just to show what is right, what is wrong, or just, give some early warning signals about certain, unacceptable behavior. And, I have seen some startups who only concentrate on getting investment, growing the company, and then exit. Exit is the, their critical words, because every startup has in mind that I will exit with $10 million, exit with $50 million. So in order for them to do this exit in a proper way, I think ethicality is one of the important, it's not the only, but it is one of the very important, let's say, considerations. And I think by having some type of a guiding man, an experienced guiding man, they could, form a board of directors, whether the chairman or the senior executive director, is aware of ethicality, the importance of ethics. And then I also recommend also for Turkish companies. In Turkey, I was able to convince up to now only 2 companies where I said in every board of directors, there should be at least one director who is responsible from ethics. They have some corporate governance, audit, risk management, this, that. I say, okay, sometimes they say corporate governance covers ethics. It is included in the corporate governance. But I say, please, it might be included, but the terminology ethics is very important. You just give the assignment saying, hey, director, you are responsible from ethics in this company. I have convinced only 2 companies in Turkey up to now, but I think it helps. Those 2 companies, once they have a board of director member in charge of ethics, the company became more aware of ethical behavior, because that board member has to put on the agenda the ethics whenever there is the board of directors meeting. And before the board of directors meeting, that director calls the CEO and other top executives, the chief executive officer, chief financial officer, chief operations officer, and they talk about ethics. And he gives a report to the board of directors about the development of ethical behavior in the company. So I think it helps if the shareholders are ethical. At the very top we have shareholders. In Turkey we have some shareholders who doesn't like ethics. They incorporated the company just to behave unethically, right? So they look for earning more money. Sometimes they do not unethical things, but some unlawful things. So we should have shareholders caring about ethics, board of directors caring about ethics, and then the management caring about ethics. And we should never forget that fish, the fish and the
Okay, so that's so I didn't write it down, but I definitely made a fish in my notebook. So we're gonna revisit some of the things that you mentioned of ethical versus maybe being unlawful. But Fran, I want to ask you. I mean, a little birdie. So we bring a lot of animals into the conversation today, apart from fish. But a little birdie told me today that you have a birthday today. So that makes you 1 year older.
Yes.
And also wiser. Speaking of, we need to have wise people incorporate into our companies to give us some advice. So thinking about maybe the different generations that are presented in the accelerator, what kind of thoughts do you have around what has been mentioned so far?
Yeah, thank you very much, Maria. Yes, it's my birthday. And yes, 42.
happy birthday.
Thank you. Seeing a lot of things in this ecosystem and other ecosystems. I relate, as you know, with the other countries' entrepreneurial ecosystems. And the accelerator, we have a lot of people every year. It's a 20 projects batch every year. So we have very, very young people and also 60, 70 even years old people there. Actually, I will not say that it's not it's about the age. It's more for me about the experience, because these kind of things in business is like a tricky point. Okay, if you listen to some experts or like not unethical shareholders, as you said, or investors that are very, very, profit minded. You heard some things that you think are true if it's the first time that you are hearing that, and that actually it's not true. I'm talking about the exit point that you mentioned is very, very important. Focus on the cash flow, in the focus in the exit, and actually is that not true? I agree with the Fiona. For investors are also not true. If you are raising money, I've raised like, I don't know, dozens of investment rounds. All of them said the same. Be careful with the money. Be careful with the transparency. That's really, really important. And because a lot of entrepreneurs raise the money and forget about the investors. They don't give give them information, don't give them updates about the company. So they probably don't gonna trust you anymore after one shot. Okay, so you are not thinking in the long term, as I said before. And yeah, these entrepreneurs that we have in the accelerator programs, we try to explain them that this is the first step. This is the first shot in your life, trying to be successful with your company, trying to get an exit, $10 million, whatever. But it's your first shot. So if you're thinking that your first shot is going to be the best one, then it's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult to have success in the first company that you build. So you better to be careful that your relationship with investors, shareholders, stakeholders, partners, and customers, because as I said, in the second or third entrepreneur, probably gonna be much easier for you than the first one, and much more successful, probably, I don't know. But if you don't care about your reputation and your company's reputation, probably you don't have another opportunity, at least in that ecosystem. Okay, so yeah, that's very, very important this market today. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to talking to you, Fran. And you mentioned we were talking about being wise with age, coming with experience. But obviously, something that we share here is that we have different backgrounds and come from different cultures. And of course, there is always could be a little bit challenging from time to times to find the right formula to nurture all these relationships that you have with these people that are sitting all over. And I think, Enrico, I mean, you had so many hats, right? Everything from mentoring to your philanthropist, you're dealing with all different types of companies. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well, like what examples you can give us of some of the methods maybe that you yourself apply to facilitate this those relationships.
Thank you, Maria. I think that first of all, I go back a little bit because when we talk, sometimes in the startups of a new project, we need a gray-haired people. I don't know this, but I prefer to call this a ghost CEO, that is a chief experience officer. Okay, that have to be work together with the real chief executive officer and help both to grow in the right way the company. On the other side, I think that, for example, I give the experience in Italy where a sustainability report is required by law for the public company and for the company that are listed on the markets. And why the company that are listed on the market do not have in the board an ethics member? Is so important. It's mandatory to have this sustainability report, but it's not mandatory to have a board member that follow this. And this is so important what Bulent said before, that we need to create we need to give a new vaccine that is an mRNA inside the company to create a new type of DNA that is the ethical DNA inside each company, big company and small company, and also in the startups. On the other side, I use myself and and the people that work together with me. We sometimes put in 10 points when we building what we call an ethical decision-making framework that we use. And we use this like a guideline or a runway light in the airport, because guidelines is something that are strict. No, it's a runway light is something that you can approach in different way, like a different flight. But anyway, at the end, you landed. So to do this, I think that's first of all, the first point is to identify and define what is the ethical values. So if we start by identifying and defining the ethical values, is so important for the startups because will serve as a foundation for all the decisions making and that we take care during the life of the startups. The second is to assess the potential risk, the ethical risk. And is another thing that is our guideline, because sometimes this type of risk can be related to the data privacy, the product safety, or the social responsibility, and is different from one project to another project. On the other hand, the third point is to establish policies and procedures. So we have developed clear policies and procedures that outline how ethical decisions should be made in the startups, and this can include the guidelines for employee and how to handle ethical concern. And it's something that, as you said before, have to be very clear. We have to communicate the expectation, because the ethical expectation to all the employee, investor, and partners, because each of these stakeholders understand what is expected and what is the consequence or for failing to meet this expectation. And it's so important for our employee, but it's also important for our suppliers and for our customer. First of all, for what we take control of this for the supplier. We do not have to forget that we need to provide training, because we have offered training and support to the employee to help them to understand how to make the ethical decision and in our startup environment. And could be training, I repeat, in the data privacy, social responsibility, or other ethical consideration, gender, equality, or other type of approach. And we have to foster a cultural responsibility. I think that the word responsibility, we use this a lot of time during this discussion, but the responsibility is behind everything. And we have taken responsibility of ourselves, for the person that are close to us, but also all the other persons, all the other stakeholders that are part of this long trip of the not only of our startups, of our business, but also our trip of our entire life. We have to evaluate, this is another KPI that is so important, we have to evaluate the impact of each decision, because every type of decision is a move to reach something more for the startups, but we have to understand if something more for us is less more for other. And so we go back to talk about the fair profit. And so we have to seek the diverse perspective. We do not have our unique perspective, but we have to use also a perspective of the other stakeholder, of the market. At the end, we have to monitor and evaluate the things, because if we do not monitor or evaluate, we do not have the measure of what we are ethics path and what is our ethic KPI. And at the end, another word that is so important in the ethics brief is to be transparent. So if we are transparent in our startups ethical decision and process, we have no problem of the trust with all the stakeholders in our arena. Thank you.
Thank you for your valuable points. And something that I reacted to was when you mentioned about the ethical risks. And one of the ethical risks, I would say that has been a repetitive theme. It's the ethical blindness in an organization. And I was wondering and please feel welcome all, to give me your inputs and share that with our audience. What do you think causes the ethical blindness in an organization?
Well, it's psychological, isn't it? I mean, it's the human nature to want to believe the best, and it's human nature to not want to know when something's wrong, which is why it is so critical to have processes in place for whistleblowers to be able to alert if there's an issue. I think we are naturally people that want to believe the best in people. And which is probably the reason why when there's a flaw, it is such a deep impact and creates such irreversible damage. Enrico said that before. I mean, you have that only one first impression, and you have that one shot. If you get it wrong, then that's it. You're going to be branded. And I think that it has a lot to do with character of people, which is you just want to believe. We're naturally people that are looking for trust, and especially in the tech world or with startups, you want to have a company, and you want people to believe that you, the individual, have created the company with a long-term vision for it to be successful, scalable, ethical, and relevant, and of the stature that befits receiving funding from investors such as ourselves and such as this forum. I mean, that's my 2 cents. I personally, by the way, find it very hard to believe the bad in people. And so maybe that naivete sometimes puts a bit of paranoia. But I think when you're going out there, you're running your company, you have your one shop, you need to raise the money, then do it right, build trust, don't play games.
Thank you. And I liked that you're affirmative about it as well. So we know I wouldn't do it in any other way. But I'm actually going to revert a little bit later on, because I want to build up on the sort of the ethical blindness, but also is it something that we can do though, by using the law or regulations to reinforce the ethical behavior for companies, or are we talking about governance here?
So Maria, it's the whistleblower is the biggest things, which is creating a vessel for people to feel comfortable to highlight if they're seeing something unethical. So first of all, it's creating that avenue that gives them the ability to flag it, because that not only is important for the person that wants to flag it, it's also important for the leadership to know that someone may flag it.
That's interesting. And I know, Mr. Shenva, this is something close to your heart, right? Talking about ethical blindness. And I mean, could you enlighten us with your thoughts about what in your experience and that causes the ethical blindness in the organization, from your perspective?
Well, I think the major blindness comes from the top management behavior. If top management does not care about ethics and does not really implement some internal controls, checklists, some audit mechanism, the institution really automatically doesn't build up ethical behavior. It's not like an automatic washing machine. You really need to enforce it. You have to put effort in it, even if ethics should be in our DNA. Unfortunately, also unethical behavior is also in the human body's DNA, and therefore we always need some type of guidance, some type of supervision, some type of audit, inspection. That is needed. And I think one of the main reasons why this is needed is because of the definition of what is right and what is wrong. According to a cashier in a bank, for example, something might be right to do it, but according to the general management of that bank, it might not be a good thing to do. So therefore, the right and wrong should be defined very carefully, clearly, and everybody in the organization should understand that. We need proper education, training, and also everybody in the organization should know that they are being followed up. You know, unethical behavior never flies away undetected. That should be the belief. And you know, if you supervise, audit, control, internal controls, etc., you can really catch unethical behavior. Sometimes before it happens, sometimes after it happens. But the personnel knows that, you know, unethical behavior, I cannot hide, I cannot run away from unethical behavior. And also they should see that there is a severe punishment coming after if you do some unethical behavior. You know, if there is blindness, you know, sometimes some managers, you know, behave in such a manner that they say, okay, you know, this personnel behaved unethically, but this personnel is a useful personnel. I can't do without him. So let me not for this time react to this unethical behavior. So sometimes they use their feelings, sometimes they use their positive relationship. So that is not something good. You know, if you see unethical behavior, even if it is your brother, your father, your wife, you know, you should really whistleblow. You know, you should really bring it to the attention of management, and some action has to be taken so that the other employees see that as an example. They should not say, you know, people may act unethically, and even the manager knows this unethical behavior. You know, our managers shut their eyes if you are useful to him. So I think this is a culture. I call it ethical culture. And in your organization, first you should define what should be your ethical culture. How should it be? What type of tolerance can you give to unethical behavior? Any tolerance, no tolerance, zero tolerance? And you should really determine very carefully your ethical code of conduct. You should give proper training to your personnel. And from time to time, they may forget about that code of conduct. I have seen many companies, you know, which have a very well written ethical code of conducts, but personnel, you know, some of them don't know even that document. You know, it's on the web page. It's on the web page, but they have never seen it, or they have never read it, or they read it 10 years ago and they forget about it, or they forgot all the articles in that. So I think this should be brought into the eyes of the personnel frequently. You know, sometimes some companies put in the training curriculum plan some ethical courses. All newcomers, new joiners to a company, you know, they should pass that training. And also, you know, for every 2 years or 3 years, some managers also pass through that training. So I think, you know, if the board is aware of this, the importance of ethical behavior, they will really, you know, make the CEO, you know, to establish certain, let's say, procedures, implementations, regulations in the company, so that everybody becomes aware of these ethical issues and implements ethically all the decisions and all the company behavior.
Maybe I was just thinking that perhaps even this is so interesting, and I definitely wish, and I think I said it every time we have a meeting of a webinar touching upon ethics, that there should be a part 2 on this, because I think when you were mentioning about the ethical culture, I was reading an article, and I should have brought it with me to have to quantify this properly. But in this article, it was demonstrated how different generations look at this in terms of whistleblowing and just making an awareness that something wrong is going on within the organization. And the younger you are, the less they will report unethical behavior because of so the general perspective was that people will not follow up. So what is the point? But that maybe could be for a different discussion. But maybe we can plant that seed and see this, how we view at these topics from a generational point of view as well. And I know, Fiona, you were mentioning, tech companies, of course, there might be a different mindset depending on the industry that you operate in as well. But because I want to be mindful of our time, so I did promise that the webinar and this was going to be exactly 60 minutes. So I will, I think the last comment or question that I want to say is, do you think, we like to talk about sustainability as well. We talk about ethics and sustainability. And I think that sometimes people look at sustainability as something just being greener. But it's just, but sustainability or longevity of a company, do you think that without ethics properly being implemented into your company, where do you see the sustainable longevity of a company? Does it matter really, or can you thrive these days without having it? Is your company sustainable without ethics? Yes or no?
Definitely no.
Yeah. Go on, you start.
No, go for Fiona. Go Fiona.
You've got the startup. Go for it.
Okay, definitely no. Thank you. I just reminded one quote or mantras of some investors that said is like, cash flow is more important than your mother. Have you heard? Cash flow is more important than your mother.
I haven't heard it, but you got my attention.
But I would rather say ethics is more important than your mother in the long term. Okay, so actually, I think it's the most important thing in the long term. So really, yes.
Fiona, you had some.
You were laughing at me before because you were saying how forceful I am. I don't think there's rooms for having an unethical mindset in business. You are going to be building something from scratch. This is a startup forum. We are angel investors. We want to put money in places where people have clear guidelines between right and wrong, do and don't. We want clear processes in place for whistleblowers. We want clear codes of ethics. That's it. Bottom line, there is no room to shortcut. There is room to shortcut in getting to your solution by bootstrapping and taking products off the shelf. There is no room in creating a startup, taking money and building something long-term to success with shortcutting on your ethics and on your morals. That's it. You are in business. You are taking money. You are building a company. You have to be ethical.
And I think I just heard from the audience the words of hear, hear. That's what I heard. So, Mr. Bullet, anything that you would like to say, and then Rico, before we close down, you have 2 minutes. So I give you 1 minute each.
So in my Bosphorus University class, business ethics, I sometimes tell to my students, saying, students, do you know, mafia has its own ethical code of conduct. So they are shocked, saying, mafia having ethical code of, yes, I say, it's their rights and it's their wrongs. And do you know what is written in their ethical code of conduct? One of the articles says, if somebody does something wrong to you, shoot him from the leg. So that's their ethical right. So I say, every institution has their own ethical code of conduct, even mafia. So you're going to graduate from this university, you're going to join a company, and that you're going to have a code of conduct. It's that company's code of conduct. Yes, we hope, we don't have many, code of conduct like the mafia uses. However, it's very specific to that specific company. Coca-Cola might be different from P&G. There might be certain common things there, some accepted common values, etc. but it is your company. You have your own mission, vision, aims, objectives, and you have your own values. And you sit down with your shareholders and then determine your own values, determine your own rights and wrongs. And then you try to, push that to your board of directors and then to your management. And all personnel is going to use those guidelines. So I say, don't worry, if you like something, you write it down in your code of conduct. If you don't like it, you don't write it. But you should be aware of the market conditions, what is good for the customers, what is good for the suppliers, what will they give credit to you or not give credit to you. So don't be afraid. And I also recommend them not copy and paste code of conducts. Many companies, when I ask them, please prepare a code of conduct as a consultant, the next time I visit, they say, yes, we did. And I look at it, I say, oh, this is PG's code of conduct. They only changed the name of the company. And that becomes their code of conduct. If you do copy and paste, you don't really build all those articles in your behavior. You don't put it into your brains. So I recommend them to do some, brainwashing meetings, meetings with the CEO, with the other top management team, spend a weekend in one of the good hotels, perhaps go to Antalya region, and determine your own rights and wrongs.
Okay, thank you. Well, we went a little bit over there, but I think those we definitely needed to hear those inputs. Enrico, last but not least.
I will very short, but I want to close this with say that we must always keep in mind that we, also myself, we are lucky people that we eat at least 3 meals a day, and so we can speak and think with more tranquility and wisdom. There are countries where people do not earn $1 a day, and how these people can think about values or sustainability or ethics. But also we have to keep in mind that there is other big country, like also last week in Iowa in the United States, they have just passed a pro-child labor bills that permit the child to go to work at 14 years old, and they can work in the slaughterhouses. And so, as Bullet said before, there is some profit company that doesn't matter about the DNA of ethics in his own DNA of the company. So we have to fight also to training the people that want to be trained, that want to grow with the ethics value. And also we have to fight in every country, also in the what we can call great country, that also the EU, the United States, Turkey, or whatever, to fight against people that do not take ethics like the first light in the life of the company, as Fran said before. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I'm going to give myself 30 seconds. But first of all, I want to give a big thank you. I know there's a national holiday in Italy. You took time for your birthday, and I know you're very, very busy. Mr. Bulent, same as well. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your contributions today. And for those who are watching, I would like to welcome you. From some of the conversations that we had in Antalya, some wanted to join our committee. You're very welcome. This is a committee for all. And if we want to shape it, we need to shape it together. So I wish you a very, very good day wherever you are. And until next time, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.